the laughter before the storm. The council chamber of the Galactic Empire was vast, lined with banners from 1,000 conquered worlds. Around the great circular table sat the admirals and ministers of the Imperial fleet, their expressions a mix of arrogance and boredom. A holoscreen glowed in the center, showing a small, unfamiliar ship drifting at the edge of the Empire's territory. It was sleek, metallic gray, with clean lines and no obvious weapon ports. "Is this it?" scoffed Admiral Voreth, a towering reptilian with gold-plated armor. "This is the human test ship we've been hearing about?" A wave of laughter rolled through the chamber. Some aliens tapped their claws on the table. Others hissed or chuckled in their own languages. "It looks fragile," another officer said. "No armor plating worth mentioning. No visible weapons. Probably held together with welding scraps." A junior strategist chimed in. "Humans are new to the stars. This is likely their first attempt at a real warship. They must think we'll be impressed." More laughter. No one in that room noticed the young intelligence officer in the corner, shifting uncomfortably. She had been the one to gather the reports, and something about the readings from the human ship didn't match any known design. But she said nothing interrupting a council full of egos was dangerous. Far away, aboard the HSS Aegis, Captain Rylan Hayes stood at the command deck, hands clasped loosely behind his back. The holographic display in front of him showed the approaching Imperial Patrol Fleet 12 ships in a tight spearhead formation. His crew was calm, almost too calm. There was no shouting, no panic, just quiet focus. Each officer moved with the precision of someone who had rehearsed this scenario 100 times. "They've scanned us twice," reported Lieutenant Vega from the sensor station. "No sign they understand what they're looking at." Rylan allowed himself the smallest smile. "Good. Let them keep laughing." The Aegis wasn't just a test ship. It was Earth's first prototype for a new generation of war technology. Every inch of it had been built in secret, deep under the oceans of Europa, away from the eyes of alien spies. Its true capabilities were hidden behind false readings and disguised energy signatures. To the Empire, it looked harmless. To anyone who knew the truth, it was a predator waiting to strike. Back in the Empire's fleet, the lead cruiser sent a broadcast. The message came in with mocking formality. "Unidentified human vessel. You are trespassing in Imperial space. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Failure to comply will result in your destruction." The voice carried that same smug tone that Rylan had heard in countless recordings of alien encounters. It was the voice of an empire that believed itself invincible. "Should I respond, Captain?" asked Communications Officer Dela Cruz. Raylan shook his head. "Not yet. Let them think we're ignoring them. It will make what comes next clearer." In the Imperial flagship, Admiral Voreth leaned forward, his grin wide. "They're not answering. Brave or stupid?" "Likely stupid," said another officer. "Fire a warning shot." The order was given. A lance of blue plasma streaked across the void, passing just ahead of the Aegis's bow. On board the Aegis, the crew didn't flinch. No alarms blared, no evasive maneuvers were made. The human ship kept gliding forward, silent and steady. "Captain," Vega said softly, "they're within optimal range." Rylan's eyes narrowed. "Time to wake them up. Release the locks on primary weapons slowly. I want them to see the energy spike." Sensors aboard the Empire ships lit up with sudden alerts. Strange energy readings pulsed from the human vessel. At first, they assumed it was some kind of reactor malfunction. Then they noticed the readings weren't random. They were precise, controlled, and growing stronger by the second. "What are they doing?" asked one confused sensor officer on the flagship. "Maybe they're overloading their reactor." "Trying to scare us," said another, but his voice lacked confidence. The intelligence officer at the council, back on the capital world, stared at her own readouts, heart racing. She had seen energy spikes like this before in simulations of weapons that could tear through shields in one strike. But those designs had never been built. Or so everyone thought. On the Aegis, panels shifted along the ship's hull, revealing long, smooth barrels of an unfamiliar material. Soft vibrations hummed through the deck as power flowed into the weapon systems. Reelan walked to the center of the bridge. His voice was calm, almost conversational. Lock target on their lead cruiser. Fire one shot. Just one. The order was carried out. A thunderous burst of kinetic force roared from the Aegis's railgun. The projectile crossed the distance in less than a second. The Imperial flagship shields lit up and shattered. Armor split, bulkheads ruptured, and in the blink of an eye, the ship was gone. Silence followed. Not just on the bridge of the Aegis, but across the entire Imperial fleet. Reelan's lips curved into that same small smile. Now, he said quietly, they understand. The trap is set. The Imperial fleet hung frozen in space. 12 ships had arrived. Now only 11 remained, and one of those was venting fire and debris from a shattered escort craft caught in the flagship's explosion. No one spoke. Even the constant background chatter of fleet comms had gone silent. The only sound aboard. The Aegis was the low hum of its reactors. They're scanning us again, reported Vega, eyes flicking over the console. This time, they're not laughing. Captain Ryland Hayes studied the tactical display. The Imperial formation had loosened, their tight spearhead now breaking into defensive spreads. They didn't advance. They didn't retreat. They were hesitating. That hesitation will kill them, Ryland said quietly. They don't know yet if they're prey or predator. On the Imperial flagship's secondary command center, now serving as the fleet's lead ship after the Admiral's death, Commodore Threx gripped the edge of his console. He was sweating under his scaled armor, a rare thing for a Sorn officer. How did they do that? One of his gunnery chiefs whispered. No ship that small carries a weapon like that, said Threx. But the words sounded hollow even to him. From the back of the room, the intelligence officer's voice cut through the panic. Sir, I believe that was a mass driver, but nothing like our own. That projectile was accelerated to a fraction of light speed. At that velocity, even shields reinforced with gravity distortion can't hold. Threx turned sharply. Are you saying the humans, primitive humans, have perfected a weapon our engineers said was impossible? I am saying, she replied, that we are facing something the Empire has no countermeasure for. On the Aegis, Ryland stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He wasn't smiling now. This wasn't over. They're waiting for reinforcements. Vega guessed aloud. They won't get them, Ryland replied. Not in time. He tapped a control on the armrest of his command chair. The main display shifted to show a holographic map of the surrounding sector. Hidden in the debris field of a long-dead asteroid belt were 6 more human ships, Sol prototypes like the Aegis, each cloaked by new stealth systems that bent both light and sensors around their hulls. Signal the others, Ryland said. Phase 1 complete. Prepare for the net. The Imperial fleet began to edge backward, thrusters firing in slow pulses. To the casual eye, it looked like a cautious retreat. But Ryland had studied Imperial tactics. This wasn't retreat, it was bait. Want us to follow, Dela Cruz muttered. They're trying to pull us into a kill zone. Vega added. Exactly, Ryland said, calm as ever. So we'll let them think it's working. The Aegis moved forward, keeping its speed steady and its weapons idle. The Imperial ships increased their withdrawal, drawing the humans deeper into their chosen space. But what they didn't know they couldn't know was that they were moving directly into Earth's trap dot in the debris field. Commander Yara Singh, aboard the HSS Valiant, watched her scopes. The Imperial ships were drifting into the engagement zone. Her voice came low but steady over the encrypted comms. "Aegis, this is Valiant. Net is closing. Targets in 60 seconds. "Acknowledged," Rylan replied. "On my mark." The Imperials kept retreating until their formation crossed an invisible boundary. A second later, every human ship in the debris field powered up at once, their stealth fields dropping to reveal hulking silhouettes armed with the same railgun technology as the Aegis Dot. By the time the Imperials realized they were surrounded, it was already too late. "Contacts!" shouted an Imperial sensor tech. "Multiple, no dozens." "Not dozens," Threx growled as horror dawned on his face. "Enough to end us." Back on the Aegis, Rylan gave the order in a tone as cold as space itself. "Fire." The Valiant and her sister ships opened up in unison. Railgun slugs tore through shields, shredding armor and cutting ships in half before they could even raise their weapons. Imperial return fire was scattered and frantic. A few energy blasts splashed harmlessly against the human ship's layered hull plating. One human corvette took a glancing hit, but it kept fighting. Within 40 seconds, half the Imperial fleet was gone. "Do we finish them?" Vega asked, watching the tactical board light up with kill markers. "Not yet," Rylan said. "Leave survivors. They'll run and they'll talk. The Empire needs to know exactly what happens when they mock Earth." The remaining Imperial ships turned tail, engines flaring bright as they fled at maximum speed. The battlefield was left littered with wreckage, drifting bodies, and the cold silence of defeat. Rylan looked over the damage report from his own ships. Minimal harm. 0 losses. And somewhere deep inside the Imperial heartland, the first whispers of fear about humanity were already beginning to spread. The Empire strikes back. The news traveled faster than light. Within hours, Imperial worlds were buzzing with a single story how a primitive human test ship had erased an elite fleet in less than 5 minutes. Some laughed in disbelief. Others whispered in fear. The truth was worse than either side imagined. In the marble halls of the Imperial Palace, Emperor Kelvarine slammed a clawed fist against the arm of his throne. His voice echoed like thunder. "Find them. Destroy them. Erase their world from the maps." His advisors bowed low, but in their eyes there was unease. No one had seen the Emperor this angry in decades. In the underground war rooms of Earth, Rylan Hayes studied the intercepted transmissions. "They're mobilizing," Vega said, scrolling through the data. "Not just a Fleet 3 full battle. Groups, carriers, dreadnoughts, planetary assault ships. Everything they've got." Raylan's jaw tightened. "Then they're coming to us." The room fell silent. No one needed to ask what would happen if the Imperials reached Earth's orbit. Billions would die before the first defense line even fell. In deep space, the Imperial Armada assembled. Hundreds of ships filled the void, their formation stretching across the black horizon. Each was a fortress bristling with weapons. On the HFY bridge of the lead dreadnought, Commodore Threx, still alive, a humiliated, stood at attention before the Emperor's hologram. "You failed once," Kelvarine said, his voice like ice. "This time, you will not." Threx bowed. "I will deliver you Earth's ashes." On the Aegis, the crew prepared for the worst. Engineering teams reinforced the armor. Weapons crews cleaned and calibrated every barrel. Pilots ran drills until their hands shook, but Rylan had a plan. "They'll expect us to meet them head on," he told his officers. "We won't. We'll hit them where they're blind, where their pride refuses to look." 2 days later, the Imperial fleet entered the Sol system. Sensors locked onto Earth, Luna, and the orbital defense platforms. But when the first wave of Imperial ships approached, They found nothing, no human warships, no resistance, just empty space. Where are they? Threx growled. Then the stars themselves seemed to move. From the shadow of Jupiter's moon, Io, the Aegis and her hidden fleet emerged, railguns already spinning. From the asteroid belt came a second wave of stealth corvettes. From behind Saturn's rings, missile barges fired salvos that lit the void with streaks of burning light. The trap closed before the Imperials even realized they'd walked into one. Target their carriers first, Rylan ordered. Cut their wings. The first volley crippled 2 carrier-class ships before their fighters could launch. The second destroyed a dreadnought in a flash of molten debris. Imperial fighters finally swarmed out, but human point defense lasers cut them down in bright flares of vaporized metal. The void turned into a storm of fire. On the Imperial command deck, Threx watched in disbelief as his formation broke apart. His crews fought hard, but every tactic was countered. These humans, he muttered, they're fighting as if they've been at war for centuries. They have, his lieutenant said grimly. Only with each other. Hours passed, ships on both sides burned. But the humans never gave the Imperials a solid target. They struck fast, then vanished into the asteroid fields, only to reappear. From another angle, when the last of his carriers exploded, Threx knew the battle was lost. But retreat was forbidden. He opened a channel to the Emperor. My lord, they were ready for us. We cannot. The transmission cut off as a railgun slug from the Aegis tore through his command bridge. The Imperial armada was broken. On the Aegis, Raylan watched the last enemy ships limp toward the edge of the system. He didn't order pursuit. Not yet. Let them crawl home, he said. Let them carry the story with them. The calm before the counterstruck. The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. The debris of the Imperial fleet still drifted in the silence of space. Some pieces were as small as a coin. Others were the size of cities, glowing faintly from the heat of battle. On the Aegis, the crew moved with quiet focus. No cheers, no celebration, just the steady hum of repairs. Vega approached Rylan on them. Bridge, we won. Twice. Why do you look like we lost? Raylan's eyes stayed fixed on the tactical display. Because the Empire doesn't stop after 2 defeats. They'll come again. Bigger. And next time, they'll bring something we've never seen before. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Kael Vareen was silent as reports flooded in. Advisors tried to explain, to make excuses, but the Emperor raised one claw, and they fell silent. Have embarrassed us twice, Kael said, his voice low but dangerous. The galaxy is watching. If we do not crush them, we lose everything, not just this war, but our throne. A tall, armored figure stepped forward. General Dravos the Empire's most feared warlord. His armor was black as space, decorated with the bones of his enemies. Send me, Dravos said. I will burn their cities to ash and salt their oceans so nothing grows. The Emperor's lips curved in a thin smile. Then go, and do not return until you bring me the human leader's head. Back on Earth, the leaders of the United Earth Defense Council gathered in a secure underground chamber. Generals, scientists, diplomats all seated around a circular table. This is our chance, one of the generals said. We've proven we can beat them. We should take the fight to their worlds. A scientist shook her head. We don't know the full reach of their empire. Charging in blind is suicide. Rylan entered the room. They'll be back. And when they come, they won't just target our fleet. They'll target our homes, our families. If we wait, we give them the advantage. If we strike first, we take it away. The room fell into tense silence. Preparations began immediately. From the orbital shipyards above Mars, a new class of warship was rushed into production, the Titan class. Twice the size of the Aegis, armed with weapons that had never been tested in battle. On the moon, drone factories worked without pause, producing swarms of autonomous strike craft. In deep bunkers on Earth, scientists refined experimental shields that could bend energy beams. Everywhere, soldiers trained harder than ever before. Pilots flew until their bodies ached. Marines drilled in simulated alien cities. Humanity was building not just for defense, but for war. 3 weeks later, the calm broke out in the darkness beyond the edge of the Sol system. Long-range probes picked up movement, hundreds of signals, moving in formation. This was no ordinary fleet. At its center was a massive ship, the size of a small moon, bristling with cannons. Vega stared at the readings. That's not just a warship. That's a planet killer. Ryland's face was unreadable. Then it's time. But before the human fleet moved, Ryland made a decision that shocked his officers. "We're not meeting them in our system," he said. "We're going to theirs?" Gasps filled the bridge. Vega stepped forward. "Sir, that's suicide. We don't even know the route." Ryland tapped the console, revealing a star map. "I know the route. We've had it since the first battle." The Aegis recorded their jump coordinates. They thought they were chasing us, but we were tracking them. In the Imperial command ship, General Dravos received word that the human fleet had vanished from Sol. "They're hiding," one of his officers said. Dov O smiled coldly. "No, they're hunting." On the edge of the Empire's core worlds, a trade convoy passed through an asteroid field. Among the drifting rocks, shadows moved human ships, cloaked and silent. The humans let the convoy pass unharmed. They weren't here for traders. They were here for something far greater, the heart of the Empire itself. The heart of the enemy. The human fleet slipped through the darkness like ghosts. No broadcasts, no lights, no heat trails. Every system ran silent to avoid detection. At the center of the formation, the Aegis led the way. Ryland stood at the forward viewport, watching the stars shift as the ships navigated through the Empire's hidden supply routes. "We're deep in enemy space now," Vega said quietly. "One wrong move and they'll trap us." Ryland didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed locked on the faint blue glow ahead, a gas giant where the Empire had built a major shipyard. "This is where we hit them first," he said finally. No shipyard, no fleet. The gas giant loomed larger as they approached. Around it spun a massive ring station, thousands of meters long, with hundreds of docked Imperial warships in various stages of construction. Workers and drones moved like ants along its surface. Vega stared in disbelief. "There must be 50 ships here." 50, Ryland said. "That will never launch." The plan was simple, but deadly. The Aegis and 2 Titan-class ships would break cloaking at close range, fire every weapon they had, and destroy the station before the Empire could react. The rest of the fleet would hold back, ready to engage anything that escaped. "Ready main cannons," Ryland ordered. The ship's AI responded, its calm voice echoing through the bridge. "Primary batteries armed, quantum lances charged, all systems green." In the Imperial Station's command deck, alarms began to blare. Unidentified. Contacts emerging from stealth. An officer shouted. The commander's eyes went wide. How did they get here? Before anyone could answer, the Aegis fired. The first blast from the human quantum lance tore through the ring station like it was paper. Entire sections of the structure exploded, sending molten metal and wreckage into space. The Titan class ships followed, launching barrages of missiles that homed in on power cores and weapons bays. The Empire's half-finished warships never had a chance. Their hulls split apart under the assault, scattering burning fragments into the planets. Gravity well. Vega's voice was steady. Targets neutralized. No survivors. Ryland's jaw tightened. Good. Now we move before they send reinforcements. But they didn't get the chance to retreat quietly. Long-range sensors lit up with dozens of incoming signals. An Imperial. Rapid response fleet faster, smaller ships. Designed to swarm and overwhelm enemies. 30 destroyers. Closing fast. The tactical officer reported. Raylan didn't hesitate. Signal the fleet. Hold position. Let them come to us. The Imperial ships surged forward, confident they had cornered their prey. But as they entered weapons range, the humans sprung their trap. Dozens of cloaked drone carriers hidden among. The asteroid belt powered up and unleashed swarms of attack drones. The drones darted between enemy ships, firing concentrated bursts that crippled engines and shredded weapons arrays. The destroyers tried to regroup, but the Aegis's railguns tore through their lines. The Titan-class ships finished the rest with precision strikes. Within minutes, the Imperial response fleet was nothing but drifting wreckage. Vega exhaled slowly. 2 victories in one day. Not bad. Ryland didn't smile. They'll know. Now, they'll know we can reach them anywhere. That's exactly what I want them to think. Back in the Imperial capital, General Dravos received the report with a cold stare. They hit our shipyard? And destroyed 30 destroyers? He asked. Yes, General. His officer replied nervously. And they left no survivors. Dravos's claws dug into the arm of his chair. Then we stop chasing shadows. We bring the war to their homeworld, and we make an example so brutal the galaxy never forgets. As the human fleet retreated toward a hidden base on the edge of Imperial space, Raylan called a meeting of his captains. This is the beginning, he told them. The Empire thinks humans are unpredictable. They think we're dangerous because we fight with emotion. But they haven't seen the truth yet. He leaned forward, his voice low and certain. Our calm isn't weakness. It's the moment before the storm. The trap in the void between stars was silent, endless, and empty. At least that's what the Empire thought. Ryland stood. On the Aegis's command deck, his arms crossed as the holomap of the sector glowed before him. In the center was a narrow stretch of space, a hyperspace choke point. Any fleet moving toward Earth would have to pass through it. This is where. We stopped them, Ryland said. 2 days earlier, Imperial scouts had spotted Earth's defense fleet pulling back from the border. The move was intentional. Ryland wanted the Empire to believe the humans were afraid. It worked. Imperial High Command ordered their largest battle group, over 100 warships, to push straight toward the human homeworld. Now, those ships were closing in, right into his trap. Enemy fleet entering outer sensor range, Vega reported, her voice tight. 112 confirmed signatures. Flagship is the Emperor's Wrath. The Emperor's Wrath was infamous, a battleship the size of a city, armed with weapons that could cut moons in half. Many in the galaxy believed it was unstoppable. Raylan only smiled faintly. Unstoppable until today. The trap was simple in design but deadly in execution. Ryland's fleet, 30 ships in total, waited in the shadows of a massive asteroid cluster, cloaked and silent. The choke point's gravitational field meant the enemy fleet would have to slow down and travel in a long, narrow formation. That made them vulnerable. But the real weapon wasn't the human ships. It was what the Empire couldn't see. Hidden deep inside the asteroid field were massive magnetic mines, disguised as chunks of rock. Each one was packed with enough explosive force to tear a cruiser in half. The Aegis's AI had calculated the exact moment to detonate them for maximum destruction. The Imperial fleet moved in. From the bridge of the Emperor's Wrath, Admiral Sereth observed the narrowing passage ahead. Scan for cloaked ships, he ordered. His sensor officer frowned. Nothing, sir. The area is clear. Sereth's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Humans run. They always run. Ryland's eyes never left the tactical display. First, wave entering the kill zone, Vega said. Hold, Ryland replied. The lead Imperial destroyers passed between two massive asteroids. Another 20 ships followed. The choke point forced them into a tight column, unable to spread out or turn quickly. Second wave in position, Vega reported. Ryland's voice was calm. Detonate. The space around the Imperial fleet erupted. In blinding white light, asteroids shattered as the disguised mines exploded, sending molten fragments tearing through hulls. The first 10 destroyers were obliterated instantly, their wreckage slamming into the ships behind them. The comms erupted with Imperial distress calls. Sereth gripped the railing. Where are they? Find the humans. They'll find us soon enough, Ryland said on the Aegis. Fleet attack. The human ships dropped their cloaks and surged forward, firing everything they had. Railguns punched holes clean through Imperial cruisers. Missile swarms found the weakest points in armor. Quantum lances sliced through battleship shields like paper. The choke point became a killing ground. The Imperial fleet couldn't maneuver. Every attempt to turn only caused more collisions. But the Emperor's wrath wasn't just any ship. It powered through the wreckage, its massive cannons firing bursts of energy that vaporized 2 human frigates in seconds. Target the flagship, Ryland ordered. The Aegis and 3 Titan-class ships concentrated fire on the Emperor's wrath. Its shields flared and buckled under the relentless assault. On the Imperial bridge, Sereth roared. Forward rammed the lead human ship. The giant battleship surged ahead, but that was exactly what Ryland wanted. Vega, Ryland said, bring us to Mark 7-3. The Aegis veered hard, passing dangerously close to an asteroid cluster. At the last moment, Ryland gave the order. Fire the gravity lance. A beam of shimmering light lanced out, striking the asteroid's core. The rock shattered, releasing a massive gravitational pulse, an unstable fragment of a collapsed star the humans had hidden inside. The pulse dragged the Emperor's wrath off course, slamming it into the remains of a destroyed cruiser. The impact tore open its hull. Secondary explosions raced along its spine. Moments later, the flagship was nothing but fire and drifting metal. Cheers erupted on the Aegis's bridge, but Ryland only gave a small nod. The Empire will call this a loss. I'll make sure they call it a warning. The end of the Empire, the wreckage of the Emperor's wrath still burned in the void, its flames fading into cold embers. But Ryland knew the fight wasn't over, not yet. On the Aegis's bridge, Vega stepped forward. Sir, the Imperial capitals. Defense grid has gone silent. They're in shock. Ryland's eyes narrowed. Shock fades, fear lasts longer. Set a course for their homeworld. The journey took 3 days. Along the way, human ships swept through border sectors, dismantling outposts and scattering what was left of the Imperial fleets. Resistance was weak. Most officers surrendered the moment they saw the human flag. The galaxy had never seen humans fight like this. Calm, precise, unstoppable. The Imperial capital, Valthrus Prime, was a jewel of the star-silver towers rising. From green oceans, the sky dotted with civilian and military ships. Normally, the system's defense fleet would have been waiting in formation. Now, there were only scattered frigates and a half-powered orbital cannon, broadcast to the entire planet. Ryland ordered. The comms officer nodded. You're live. Ryland stepped forward, his voice steady. People of the Empire, you mocked Earth. You tested us. You thought we were too small, too slow, too weak. And now, your greatest fleet is gone. Your flagship is dust. We are here to end this war before it destroys more worlds. On Valthrus Prime, millions watched, some in rage, some in silence. Some in fear, the Imperial High Council met in their great chamber. Chancellor Varric slammed his clawed hand on the table. We cannot let them dictate terms. General Eros, his armor scorched from retreat, shook his head. We have nothing left to fight with. If they fire on the capital, we are finished. From orbit, Ryland gave one final chance. Surrender, or we erase the city from the stars. The silence stretched. Then the council chamber doors opened. A single-figure Admiral Serath's second-in-command stepped forward on the hololink. His head bowed. We surrender? Cheers erupted on the Aegis, but Ryland didn't smile. Transmit the terms. The Empire would disarm its fleets, dismantle its war factories, and release every enslaved species within its borders. In return, humanity would withdraw, but remain ready to strike if the Empire ever rebuilt for war. For the first time in its long history, the Galactic Empire's banner was lowered from its palace spire. Across the galaxy, chains were broken. Alien worlds lit beacons in celebration. On Earth, newsfeeds showed Ryland's calm face as he delivered the final message. Humanity does not seek to rule the stars, but we will never kneel. Remember that. Weeks later, the Aegis returned home. The docks were lined with people waving flags, cheering until their voices broke. Children held up drawings of the ship that had become a legend. Veterans saluted. As Ryland walked down the ramp, Vega joined him, glancing at the horizon. Think they'll try again someday? Ryland's reply was quiet but certain. If they do, they'll remember what happened the last time. The galaxy would tell the story for centuries. Not of rage, not of chaos, but of a human fleet that faced an empire and ended it without losing their calm. Humanity's calm had become a legend. Final. Hook, closing beat for YouTube. And so, the Empire's proudest age ended. Not in fire alone, but in the quiet voice of a human who would not kneel.